Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Know the Rules of the Game podcast. I'm Desiree Patno, your host. I am the CEO and founder of NAWRB, Women in Housing Real Estate Ecosystem, and I'm very excited to bring one of my friends that I've known for many years in the industry, Zeeda Daniele. And the podcast this morning is going to be Know the Rules of the Game for Community Service. When I first met Zeeda many years ago, her love and passion for helping others and giving in the community when she worked for Fannie Mae and worked for all these different organizations and being on several different boards, I was just blown away on what she knew and of every piece of property that was in downtown LA and surrounding areas, and dedicated 30 years plus that I know of to the core. So I could not have asked for a better person to be on for community service. So welcome, Zeeda. I'd love to have you.
Oh, thank you, Desiree. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So a little bit about us. First of all, let's start with myself. I have been running NAWRB since it was founded in 2009. In addition to, I've been running my Desiree Patno Enterprises real estate brokerage for the last 30 years. We've sold over 6,000 assets. In addition to, I'm the advisor and investor for Amiga's Brain, AI for Aging Population, the Chief Strategic Officer for Zulu Time, and also the vast information that we collect and publish for the media all the way around the globe for economic footprint. From that, also Zeeda, she has now has been incredible for all these decades in what she's been doing. So she is the president owner of Central Park Promotions, which specializes in urban housing, wealth building, music, and entertainment marketing and outreach. Prior to starting her business, Zeeda served as the National Director of Community Lending for New American Funding. Prior to joining NAF, she worked for Fannie Mae, where I met her for over 15 years in various management roles. She has worked to increase affordable homeownership and rental housing opportunities for low to moderate families while supporting neighborhood stabilization, hence the community service, and revitalization in underserved communities. Danielle has also served as AVP for business development in emerging markets for Citigroup's Citi Mortgage lending operations in Southern California and Nevada, managing retail and wholesale reinvestment lending strategies. She currently serves on the board of directors for Urban League of San Diego, California, LA Family Housing, and Enterprise Community Partners. So welcome, Zeeda, to this morning's call.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to talk about community service. Desiree, you mentioned some of the organizations that I serve. Urban League of San Diego County, Los Angeles Neighborhood Housing Services of Los Angeles County, LA Family Housing, and Enterprise, just to name a few. You know, I have found that over my 30 plus years and housing that it was more than just, and is more than a job to me. It's a passion, you know, keeping people in their homes, stabilizing homes, you know, doing things, for example, creating understanding and awareness. All of those things are important. Now I do it in my everyday life, and community service is a big part of that. So for me, board membership is important. And I'm happy to be here to kind of talk about that, what that means. One of the things that you and I had briefly talked about, and in fact, you and I've talked about it quite often, is what does it mean to be a board member? What does it take to be a board member? And I will say, first of all, it takes a passion for the organization you're going to serve. It takes a person to understand and get outside of their comfort zone, because there are expectations that you should have when you join a board. You're there to advocate for the organization. You're there to promote the work of the organization. You're definitely there to fundraise, and fundraising on behalf of an organization is something that many are not comfortable with. We hear the terms, you know, give or get, you know, donating, getting others to donate, whatever the process might be. I think it all begins with one, knowing the organization that you're serving, being comfortable talking about them and talking about them often. I think another big part of that, because it's important to sustain the organization, is to understand your fiduciary responsibility. Is the organization being run well? Are we doing things properly? You know, bookkeeping, accounting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Are we
mm-hmm.
making sure we have the right people in place? All of those things are important.
Yeah, T means everything. And I love the phrase give or get.
Yeah.
I honestly have not heard that being in the industry, but we defined wealth by having options.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a perfect phrase to lead into that, because give or get, wealth and fundraising is not necessarily always, like you said, money, in the sense that fundraising can be amplifying the message, getting it out there. If you don't have the money, then get the message out there. If you don't have the money, then get someone else who does, because you can be the connector to get it done. Because at the end of the day, and this is one of the things that, Interview was really formed about, was helping to leverage everyone else together, because that you might have a special niche or a special tile that could help amplify the work that we're doing or strengthening the R&D as we are to you. I remember the first time that I met you, I told you the cause, told you what you were doing, and it wasn't before the end of the day, you wrote a check. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, this is not from my employer, this is from me personally. And I was so taken back by it, like, oh my gosh, this shows your heart is in the heart. I said, what is this for? You said you do good with it. Yeah. And that shows you understand what it takes and how hard it is to get there, but you believe in the core of what someone's doing and you stand behind it. And we've gone to meetings together. You've invited me places to go that have opened me up to new horizons that I would never thought of. Like the CRA roundtables and things that were right in my backyard. Yeah. And you're amplifying that community service. And here we are, 5-10 years later, showcasing what you've been doing all these years and how incredible work that is. So thank you for that. So I really like to amplify that. So how does, if we look at the community service aspect, and we're going to focus on that, if we were to I'd like to have everyone have a flavor of who Zeeda is. So let's take one step back and say, tell me something about Zeeda that no one knows about, including me, that we can really get to meet a bit Zeeda.
Oh, what can I tell you about me that you don't know? You know, Desiree, I think that would be hard for me, because I think that I am very transparent in what makes me passionate. The things that are important to me. My family is important to me. I think you also know that when I look at community service, it is something that my family does as well. So it's a team effort. So from my husband to my cousins to my daughter, we are all in this together. As an example, this year's homeless count, my husband went out. And it was the first time in a while that he had participated. My daughter had participated in the homeless count. And one of the things is, while they don't understand to the depth that I do the importance of the homeless count, they understood why it was important to me and chose to participate. And from that participation, my husband's a great example of someone who said, hey, listen, I should be telling some of my business partners about this, because it's important and what I learned, and it's a different thought process and a different perspective on homelessness. I think my husband got to hear during the homeless counter, before in training, about not just people that are currently homeless, but also catching people before they fall. Oftentimes when we talk about the issues of homelessness, we don't talk about helping people before they fall into homelessness, and how big that is in a high cost city like Los Angeles, the county, Southern California as a whole.
Right.
So, that's what I would say, is that for me, if there was anything at all, I would say, and I don't know if it's a secret, that I desire that my whole family be involved. in everything with regards to community service in some way. A good example is LA Family Housing is preparing to have their gala on April the 23rd. And I called my cousin, I said, and who actually is the leader of and does everything related to the entertainment and promotions and marketing that we do. I'm more the business side and the business mind behind that. And I called them and said, listen, you know, 40% or more of the individuals that are homeless in Los Angeles are male and typically tend to be men of color. We need to have men of color and other people be able to know this, understand this. What can you do to help me to engage more of the African American, minority, music, urban community in that discussion and advocate for that? Because we know that they have experienced it, not if not personally, they know someone that has, and we know that they have an opinion, and we want them to be able to see. And I think, you know, the work that LA Family Housing does is an incredible example of good work. And I think if people understand the good work, then they can find more and more reasons to why it's important to support ending homelessness, supporting affordable housing, and also understanding it means sometimes catching people before they fall so that they don't fall into homelessness, and understand what is the face of homelessness. Too often, people don't understand that homeless are not just individuals that are struggling with substance abuse, mental illness. There are a number of factors that may cause someone to fall into homelessness. And with the high cost of living here in Los Angeles and rents, most people live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
It's important that we understand that and how we get, you know. So he's like, I'm on it, you know, and that's kind of that's that part of that give or get. That's also part of that in-kind service, because see, you mentioned something earlier that I think it's important. I think a lot of times people are intimidated about the idea of getting involved with an organization because they have to ask themselves, what do I bring to the table? Most organizations are going to set a goal with you with regards to fundraising. It can be anywhere from $2,500 up to, I've seen it as high as $20,000. And typically the ask is either you give it or you help to facilitate that giving, meaning talking to someone that is willing to provide services and donations to the organization that you directly help to solicit. And that's oftentimes hard, but I will tell you, yesterday I had the pleasure of talking and speaking to, oh my goodness, I would probably say 250 LA Family Housing employees. It was kind of a day where they get together. And my time there with them was frankly to thank them for what they were doing.
Cool.
For the community, to explain my role as a board member, why their work inspired me, that I understood and the board understood that given the environment and kind of the sound bites that are out there with regards to homelessness, the causes of homelessness, how to manage homelessness, they can become discouraged in the great work that they're doing. And I wanted to be there to say, thank you. Thank you for every person that you help find a home. Thank you for every person that you go and talk to about the opportunity to be sheltered and to move their life in a different direction. And those aren't things that are easily done. So having said that, it's important that I then make sure that they have the resources to do that. You know, as part of the gala, I'm out there now talking to folks about participating, sponsorships, getting involved. ways to get involved, not just at the gala, but throughout the year. And that's one of the things that I would say to individuals that are looking to get involved, want to get involved with something that they feel strongly about. Figure out what it is that you can do that, fits you. Because I will give you I'll give you two good examples. And these are women that I call kind of the quiet icons of excellence within LA Family Housing. I could talk about, Key Hagen, who you honored last year at your conference, which was phenomenal, with San Diego Urban League, and her work around youth and the work that they do around women that are currently incarcerated and preparing them to come out of jails with jobs, address housing, address the social service needs. I can certainly talk about Lori Gay with LA Family Housing and the work that she does to prepare individuals for home ownership and to help them find the homes that are going to fit them. But, one of the things that I'm working on right now, and kind of those people that stand out in my mind today are, one, there's a woman by the name that I have the pleasure of sitting on the board with her at LA Family Housing, named Robin Lacker Johnson. She currently works for the OWN network. But when I met...
OWN, how do you spell that?
Like the Oprah network, the OWN, OWN, Oprah's network.
Okay, got it.
And when I met Robin, she was actually self-employed like myself, building her brand out there. And I will tell you, I got an email from the CEO of LA Family Housing around Thanksgiving that Robin had gone out and got, with her friends, actually gotten enough meals to feed over 200 families. And this was something
nice.
that
Fantastic.
she did alone. And I mention that only because, here you have a woman that's fantastic at what she does in her professional life. But she's also building this new career. But she found time to go out to her friends and get turkeys, to get bags, to get all the fixings, everything that someone had to just have a little bit of light on a holiday by being able to prepare and have a holiday meal for themselves. And I will tell you, that's something that I don't know that I could have done as well as she did. And the fact that she did it and when she did it was inspiring to me. And it's even more inspiring that she continued to do it.
That's just incredible. And the thing is that I found out a moment here, Zeeda, is that one of my employees did something similar. She started out going, and at night she says, Desiree, I gotta go. And I'm like, I said, I know, we gotta get this done. She says, she says, I didn't tell you, but I'm going to go out and give bags and burritos to the homeless on the streets. I'm going to go out and give them, feminine products to the homeless. And I was like, whoa. And it came out of completely left field, but how incredible, right? Yeah. And so they would go over the night before to a person's house, and they would go cook for 3 hours, and then they would go out until 2 o'clock in the morning and walk the streets and give this away. And she got her husband. So one of the things I wanted to amplify, though, real quickly, is we had talked about, the give or get, but then the in kind. And when you talked about your husband going to count the homeless, which is obviously so important. But the thing that was so powerful was that most people equate homeless to living on the street. They don't equate homeless to living in a car. And you talked about a lot about having transition into before they become. Well, you can be it's very common in Marin County and some of the more affluent counties, the cost of rental prices, right? Yeah. And so dear to heart to what both you and I do. Is that when you have a job adjustment or you have a placement, there was a person here in Orange County at our headquarters who was an employee of Disney for 25 years. And the last 8 years of her life, she lived in her car because she could no longer, because her status had changed of multiple incomes, that she could no longer afford her apartment because the rent had gone up too high. Mm-hmm. And the only way they found this out is that unfortunately she died in her car. Because I can't remember if it was carbon monoxide poisoning or whatever, but she passed away at it. And Disney had no idea that she was living in her car. So when we talk about that before they transition to, or they have a disruption in their life, we have to look at how we're helping each other, how we're, you talked about getting the food to cooking, and how, as I think I put you on this pedestal and you're saying, well, you don't know if you could do it. Well, you have this incredible knack to understanding the system, knowing the people that you could leverage, like you did with, how do I get more to come that, I need a person of color to be at this event. I need this and this and this and this. You did it. You leverage your network because of all the people you've been involved in and your family. And this other person that, Robin went out and was able to raise, the food, because she probably threw a lot of events, probably was very popular in school with PTAs or, whatever. And so she leveraged her strength. And that's where I think the whole idea of community service is community. Pick an item and be what you excel in, and do that acceleration. And if that acceleration, and obviously acceleration has to be involved in having, fundraising. But like you said, it doesn't have to be necessary that you get the money, but you find someone who will give you the money because of the fact is that you're leveraging your wealth. Love. So one of the things that really impressed me, you and I had gone to a LA family housing, I believe it was the gala when we had it at that person's home that was in their backyard. Was that a gala?
The dessert party.
Yeah, the dessert party. That's what it was. The dessert party. Oh my gosh. It was, I think, in Bel Air, drop dead gorgeous home. Everything was catered in. It happened to be one of the hottest days of the year. He had to do everything to keep everything cold because it was melting. An incredible dessert party. But they had raised so much money. And the thing is there wasn't a person who was there that was not in the passionate, whether they're passionate in donating the money, their time, their energy, their media leverage. It didn't matter, but they were all there to help in the way that they knew how, and they were there to spend the time to have fun. And having a dessert party, what better way to have alcohol and sugar combination, right? It's a nice guy.
Yeah, no, that was one of the amazing events. But I will tell you, and that is one of the larger events. But I will tell you that oftentimes those smaller events can be just as impactful. I'll give you an example of a young girl, and this was many years ago with LA Family Housing. That was in high school. And one of the things that she wanted to do as part of her community service was to set up libraries in homeless shelters. And she would actually go to her friends, to her synagogue, and to others and get them to donate books. And as part of her work, she would actually go in and set up these libraries. So those individuals that were in shelters or permanent supportive housing had books and things to read. And she focused a lot on helping those children and youth that were there, living there, to kind of have a little bit of normalcy in their life and have that easy access to a book. That's kind of incredible to me. And we're not talking about something that's quite as glamorous, but in my opinion, is just as impactful.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, Zeeda. I mean, like you said, it might not be glamorous, but having a book to calm your mind, to educate you, or just to be for entertainment and hone your skills of reading and vision, allow your mind to go, it takes them away from the element that they're in and allows them to be just them.
Yeah, and as we talk to individuals that are looking at getting involved in community service, I would say never compare yourself to other members of your committee or the board that you serve on, because some of them are going to be just fantastic at it. But what you give and what you do is going to be equally important. Blair Rich with Warner Brothers is the chairman annually for LA Family Housing.
Mm-hmm.
What this woman does is amazing to me. But, you know, when I talk again about that quiet icon excellence, and it's something that you asked me, tell me something about myself that someone don't know, and I don't know what that could be. But if I were to just take the liberty and say it for Blair, that beyond her title, her role, she's giving of herself. She's opening up that part of her life to people in a way that she doesn't have to. Now, you know, and oftentimes when you are at that level in your career, you want to be able to have that space. But not only does Blair help us to raise millions annually, she also is fearless about asking everyone that she knows how to do it. But she's also every year, or since Blair, I've known Blair before she was married, before she had her daughter. But now she talks about why it's important. And part of what's important is the idea that she knows that she can put her little daughter to bed. But there's some homeless family, head of household, that can't do that. And she goes out there and not only fundraises and talks about it, and I would argue that it's not part of her job description. And that makes her powerful to me. And oftentimes I sit back and I say, my role here as a board member is to do the things that I talked about, from advocacy to fundraising to fiduciary. But sometimes to stand behind someone like a Blair or like a Robin, who's doing things that in my mind are way above what I'm doing, but supporting it and finding a place where I can add value in what they do as a board member makes me happy. You know, it's the kind of thing, and I tell people all the time, don't be afraid of giving what you have of yourself. If it's time, there are board members, you know, a good example is LANHS and Lori Gay. Twice a month, she has at her center in Compton, she has, you know, a day where families can come out and get fresh vegetables, get information on other resources. It's kind of a farmer's market, and it's open, you know, and she does this. And then I hear about, and I'm very busy, and as you know, I travel quite a bit with my work, but then I hear about some of the board members that are there twice a month, setting up.
Do we know what day those are? Sorry, do you know what date and the location?
You know what? They're at her Center for Sustainable Communities in Compton. I don't know the exact date, but I believe they are the first Saturday and the second Saturday of the weekend. But I will get that information for you because I think it's important, you know. But again, for me, it's important to give individuals that are thinking about community service just an example of how they can choose to get involved. And it could be something very simple as volunteering that day, getting up early in the morning, helping Lori and her team get set up, talking to people, making sure people are having a good time, making sure that people understand why they're there. You know, those things don't seem like much, but what I would say to a board member is that, wow, that's what I say when I hear those things to my fellow board members, is that you're doing something awesome, and don't diminish what you're doing because it is great.
Well, you framed it out perfectly. So rule number one, don't compare yourself to others, and your value is just as strong. You're utilizing different strengths.
Yes.
And again, like she said, the Center for Sustainable Communities in Compton. I found the website. It's fantastic. There's just so many resources. And that's one of the things I go back to, again, to leveraging that information, leveraging the so many pockets, so many programs out there that are directly related to the immediate community that need to be shared on what is working and what's not working across the United States. So we're not making the same mistake twice, or we can leverage what's going to work so we can scale it faster. And every day that we can save someone from, as you say, falling down or going too far, and every day is, bringing it up. It's like, people don't realize that once you have, certain addictions or certain things, it's an every day that you have to practice it, even in a relationship, even in whatever you have, it's no different. And that's why, if we go back to, the very first thing you talked about housing, homeownership, preservation, and aging in place with the LA Family Housing, is that the, well, actually that's LANHS, but the core is, you still have to have the responsibility of the interconnection, because one of the things for our listeners in the community service, in 2018 was the first year, we heard this at our conference last year, is the first year that the populace in the United States, there are more 65 and older than there are younger than 5. Mm-hmm. So if you think about that, that's only going to continue, because the birth rate is declining and we're living longer. And with the more taxing that we have for longer living, more women are going to be living part of that, because we outlive men, just as a natural phenomenon that's going on right now. For 5 years, our average age is live longer than men. But now we're also going to be complicated with more, problems. Here we're dealing with coronavirus. It's a strain of a flu. Is this different than other flus? Well, right now they're saying yes, but at the same time, the extreme, travels and impact that we're seeing. So obviously this is going to take even a greater impact on the homeless community or the community service, whatever that community service, because it's not just homeless. Community service can be in all capacities on, if you think about what do you do about hospitals, yeah, right, and what that's going to look like. So number one, don't compare yourself to others. I think like number two, I really would like to address in the rules, just for time essence here, is facing your fears and moving on. So if we were to look at facing your fears and moving on, what it brings to me immediately is that, we talked earlier for the podcast, is my fear of talking outside of the realm, is that one-on-one is a lot of times harder for me than talking in front of a group. And, one of the things that I came off all these years of being in the real estate development side and coming into, running a very visible, vocal R&D, so you have that knowledge, is to come out there and say, you know what, I'm old enough it doesn't matter anymore. Here it is. Just lay it out there. And that's really what I'm doing right now, is I'm overcoming my own internal fears by doing this. People think, oh, I'm fearless. I could get up and talk in front of anyone for anything. No, it's because I have to force myself to do it and keep doing it every day. Otherwise, I withdraw. So talk to me about facing your fears and moving on, and what are the top 2 or 3 that you see that we can quantify easily for our listeners?
Well, I like to kind of liken that to when I decided to leave Fannie Mae, had a great opportunity to a package to leave. And it's like, what am I going to do? And what does that mean? And I will tell you that for a while, it was a little bit intimidating. And it wasn't intimidating from a financial aspect. It was intimidating from what do I want to do next, and can I do it? And one of the things that I strongly believe in is writing down and having clear goals. Being a constant learner, also identifying, looking very closely at people that are doing what you want to do or believe you want to do, and learning from them. I will tell you, you know, I started out in, you know, the housing business as a general contractor. I was probably one of the youngest general contractors in the state of California. I was in my very early 20s.
Very
I
cool.
decided to renew. I'm renewing and activating my contractor's license.
Yay!
Yeah, I know. You know, it's one of those things that I decided that I love housing. I believe that housing changes lives. I think that housing is the base of stability for most individuals, and without it, you know, there are things that can happen that are unintended and hurt the household and those family members. So housing is important. I think that women have and need to have a bigger role in construction, real estate development, and it's like, why not me? So I'm doing that. You know, I'm going back to school. You know, all of these things intended to kind of look at my goal, which is to help. And it's something, Desiree, that you and I talk about all the time, which is that we need more housing. You know, that is clear. You know, density, of course, is an issue, but clearly there are people that are paying more than they can for their housing. People are falling into homeless. People are homeless. And I think that we have a role to play in this. LA Family Housing is building a project currently in Sylmar that is going to be for formerly homeless women. You mentioned earlier the age and how many of those are women, and that we're seeing that growth. I can tell you that from the last homeless count, that's one of the things that we recognized. One, more and more of the homeless families were older. And two, many more of them were women. And they were women of age that needed that support, that in many instances were not going to go back into a broad career because of their age and other factors. And those are the things that I think in ways that I want to help. I want to be a part of that housing solution. So it's relearning, upping those skills, looking at the quiet work that people do. I will tell you, Desiree, you know, I look at the work that you've done. I remember the last conference that you had, and I remember here you are working, giving us education on so many things: healthcare, small business, investments, homelessness, name it. We had an opportunity here. And then someone mentioned to me that a member of your family was sick. And I thought to myself, wow, here this woman is leading this conference, trying to give us all these tools, and you're also having to manage, you know, home and life. And I don't know that anyone would have known that. But for me, that's that example, because it says to me, you can do it too. And to remember those kind of examples, because oftentimes when you're not facing it alone, because there's an example of someone that is working hard. It's not easy, but they're doing it. So take those examples, make them their mentors, or mentor their actions, even if you don't say it to it. Learn for them. Look for the subtle things. And I will say to you, knowing that about you and understanding what you was doing was that subtle greatness that really empowered me. I hope I didn't lose you, Desiree. So I'm going to keep talking for a moment, Desiree, until you come back. And let me just kind of talk a bit about something that I'm excited about that's happening today. My old boss, a woman by the name of Joyce Fiance, reached out to me about a month and a half ago to tell me about the work that she's doing with an organization called Rebuilding Together. Joy, like I, left Fannie Mae, and she just kind of left. But what she didn't do was leave the realm of community service. So I'm going to have an opportunity today to sit with Joy, Caroline Blakely, the CEO of Rebuilding Together, to talk about their work and the work that they want to do in Southern California to help seniors age in place and have a quality of life, and address issues with regards to access to housing. I'm really excited about that. I'm even more excited and honored that Joy thought of me, thought to call me. But that too is a part of that fearlessness that I suggest to other individuals that are looking at.
So yeah, so that is incredible. The fact that, like you said, fearlessness is that meeting with Joy. So continue on. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. I was, one surprised that she asked, but that's one of the things that I would say to other individuals about community service. Don't be afraid to ask others to join you in the work that you're proposing to do. My meeting today with Rebuilding Together, their national CEO, and others to talk about aging in place and the impact that their organization can have and wants to have in Los Angeles is exciting, because that's just another component of housing. But I think the important thing here is the fact that Joy sought to ask. And that's one of the things about being on a board. Don't be afraid to ask people that you know, even if you don't know them strongly, but if you feel in your gut that they have something to offer, ask them to join you in the work that they do, and you'd be be surprised that they might say yes. So I'm really excited. I don't know what's going to come of this, but I can tell you that I'm excited to talk with Rebuilding Together, to talk with Joy, to talk with Caroline, because like you and I talked about, aging in place is important. And there's so much to do in that space when we look at stabilizing housing for individuals as we age.
It's mind-blowing. Don't compare yourself to others, rule number one. Facing your fears and moving on, rule number two. Don't be afraid to ask others to help, rule number three. And here you're being asked, if you think about if you're facing your fears and moving on, or don't compare yourself, most importantly, to others, you're so excited to see Joy that she took the time to ask you, and what could happen because of that. That amplification of being in the moment, taking the opportunity. I really like that back to my modeling days, to where, or going to, when I was first invited 4 years ago to the family office space to talk about gender issues and the intergenerational wealth transfer to women. If you think about it, it was like, why me? Why not you? Why not, be in a space? And if you don't, we're all going to be buried in the same, at the end of the day, you're being buried. Doesn't matter how beautiful the casket is or not, it's still burial. And the core is that treating each other with respect. Don't be afraid to go involved. And you never know, you might have a secret ingredient that she needs or wants, or just being you, that would be perfect for her to amplify it is, because the old adage is that we're all human, and if you just share everyone kill them with kindness, great things happen.
Yeah.
And that agent in place is so important. So hats off to you. So excited for that. So how do we, what is it, because you and I are getting of age,
I don't want to say that we're there, but we're getting of age, that we, what's your secret sauce to amplify? Don't be afraid to ask others to help. For years I was like, don't ask. Oh my God, there's no way. I'll just do it myself. I can do everything. And now I'm realizing you're only you. You can't do everything. Quality of amplification, quality of bringing other people to the table, to helping you, and you've got nothing to lose on that aspect. So how does that amplify? So what got you to this place to don't be afraid?
Oh my goodness. I think that for me, I think age has a lot to do with it. I think the fact that I realized that I do have something to offer and that I want to offer it. I think it's important, and that I have a voice that I want to share on issues that face individuals and people that I care about. And those are people that I may never know their name, but how they live, how they're sheltered, is important to me. And I guess, I kind of walk that walk that says, hey, I got things to do to help change lives.
You've arrived, Zeeda. We've arrived. And at some point, we know what we've done. We hit our pillow, our head hits our pillow, and we're strong. We're content that, here we are talking about homelessness and aging in place. We realize that we put on a solid, we've done what we can. And at the same time, we have to take care internally as ourselves so we can help others. And that's where the idea is I believe that don't be afraid to ask others to help really amplifies who we are as a human being and who we are as and to do all the three things that you talk about, community service. So thank you for 35, 40 years you've been doing this now?
Oh, yeah, yes. I can tell you for 35 years, and I've gotten better at it because I've learned from others. I can tell you that if you were to ask me what I knew about homelessness 15 years ago, it would have probably have been very little. I have learned a great deal. Desiree, I think you know it because you have a board and you are on boards. I think one of the things that you and I both would say to individuals out there that are thinking about joining a board is understand that you're not always going to agree with your board members, but always understand and know what is the big picture. Know how to communicate beyond challenges, and know that there are going to be challenges. And that's kind of part of that, facing your fear, because when an organization has a challenge, even though it may be something as simple as a delayed payment, but how you work through those things, how you map out the new direction and the mission of the organization, if it's evolving and those sort of things. Be prepared to have a discussion and know that not everyone is going to agree with you, and they shouldn't. But that's part of that community service, and be prepared for it.
Thank you. And that's a great way to end the segment. It really is about, the whole reason for the Know the Rules of the Game podcast is about creating a greater social impact by reaching a wider audience to really leverage the resources. And if you think about being on a board, you think about community service, that's exactly what you're doing, is to curate the expertise, whatever that wealth of information is or experience or what you bring to the table, because you all are different, and hopefully the idea is to amplify each other's strengths so you can curate something that's going to be beneficial to everyone at the table, and not agreeing to disagree. And it just amplifies everything else. So thank you. So how do we get a hold of Zeeda to participate? And if something that resonated with our listeners to be part of a community service or help you in your mission with all the different wonderful, incredible causes that you have, how do we get a hold of Zeeda Daniele?
Well, you can get a hold of me by reaching out to me via email at zeedabelievesingiving@AOL.com. It's a very simple email, and it speaks to who I am. And just know that I'm here to help. Again, that's Zeeda Believes in Giving at AOL.com.
Excellent. So Zeeda is Zeeda, just so everyone knows. Z is in zebra, E is in Edward, E is in Edward, D is in David, A is in apple, and giving.
Believes in Giving.
Believes in giving. So there's an S, believes in giving.
Giving
So
at AOL.com.
Right.
And Desiree, I hope to see you on April 23rd at the LA Family Housing Gala. And I also look forward to talking to you more about rebuilding together as I learn.
That'd be fantastic. And I've already marked my calendar. As soon as you said it, I made sure that I had it there down. And then also for NAWRB, I'm your host, Desiree Patno. To get a hold of us here at NAWRB.com. Again, this N is in Nancy, A is in Apple, W for women, R for Robert, B for boy.com. Again, Desiree Patno, please follow me on LinkedIn. Very robust as a LinkedIn curator that you get in contact and follow all the work that we do here at NAWRB, whether it's through NAWRB's LinkedIn profile or Desiree Patno's profile. So thank you all. Have an incredible day. And if you know of anyone who has an incredible 3 roles for Know the Rules of the Game, please reach out to us at info@NAWRB.com. Again, that's info@NAWRB.com. Thank you again, Zeeda, for all the incredible work that you're doing to help everyone. And again, be involved in your community and community service. You don't have to be on a board, but at least show up and give them some of your time and energy and your resources by, as she said, give or get is so important in any capacity. So thank you all. And until next Wednesday at 8 a.m., we'll see you there. Thank you very much.